isn't available right now. Try again. I think we are live. Even though YouTube tells me that live streaming isn't available right now. Uh, Hopefully you guys can see us and hear us. Um, Welcome back to another episode of Pisces USA live stream. It's your favorite fish nerd, Brandy, maybe coral nerd. Today we're switching things up a little bit. Shelby just got back from reef stock, so I figured she needed a little bit of a break because I'm sure she's still running on fumes. I would be. Good. I'm glad y'all can see us because it's just a black screen spinning for me.
It's working. I just saw it. It's
going. Perfect. It says an error occurred. Please try again later. So on my side, it looks like we're not streaming. Today, though, we have an absolutely awesome guest named, what's your name again?
Marc Tell.
Marc Tell. So you might know him from his incredible aquascaping skills or his dangerously fast project execution. The one and only Marc Tell. Welcome to the stream. We are super excited to have you, and I really appreciate you jumping in last minute.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to be here. I'm looking forward to talking to you about this. It's a huge hobby for me, and I love it. It's part of my life. My wife doesn't seem to think the same way, but, you know.
Oh, those pesky spouses.
Yeah.
All right. Actually, you know what? This is sad. I didn't mean to talk about this, but over the weekend when I was gone to reef stock, my husband called me to let me know that all my fish were dead.
Oh.
I know, right? He the breaker tripped, and he wasn't home. He was out with the kids. So suddenly he is a lot more committed to my hobby. He feels so guilty. He feels responsible. He's like, oh, it's my fault. I'm like, it's not. I wish you were home, but you shouldn't stay home all day. So, you know.
Totally get that. I travel for work a lot. I was breeding plecos, and my wife called me, and they all had,
it's so bad when that happens. Like,
yeah.
It makes me feel better though that it was a tripped breaker. Like, sometimes nature just has alternative plans.
Right. Yeah, no, I totally get it. Totally understand.
All right, let's get to some more fun stuff.
Sure.
All right. So why don't you introduce yourself to the folks watching? Tell us a little bit about how you got into aquascaping and some of the projects you've been working on.
Sure. My name is Mark. I've been doing freshwater fish for about three and a half years now. I grew up with fish tanks in the 80s. My dad had a saltwater tank. We had a big predator tank and a reef tank in the 80s. We actually used to take my class every year. We'd walk down. We were 5 houses down from the school, and they had a field trip to my house every year to see saltwater because it was different. Like nobody had saltwater in the 80s, and grew up with it. It's
still different. There's more people with it, but it's still a unique thing.
Yeah, we had a nurse shark. We had eels. Like it was crazy cool for middle of nowhere in Ohio to have something like that. So. My dad kept one of the tanks when we moved to Texas for 30-something years. So I've always been around it. My brother ended up getting saltwater, and my kids wanted an axolotl. And I was like, all right, I'm going to get back into this. I want to start keeping fish. So I got into an axolotl tank and started cycling it, scaping it. And I was like, ooh, this is fun. So that one tank turned into 2 tanks within 30 days. And
as it does.
Yeah, it went really quick. At one point I had 10 tanks set up, and my wife was threatening to like shut them all down or leave or something. And we compromised. We talked through it all. I still have the axolotl. Only thing that's not in my office, it's in the living room. The axolotl is about 7 years old now. I got him when he was 3. Huge, just awesome tank. Kids love it. Bring over all their friends to show them. But I ended up migrating from that to a 90-gallon, and then a 24-gallon. I got the 20-gallon from last year's Aquascape, the 34 gallons from this year's Aquascape contest, and now have a 120 gallon geophagus, angelfish, freshwater moray eel,
Oh,
big tank.
cool.
It's huge. So
That's awesome. I love big tanks.
yeah, it's amazing. It's a great size. It's a 5 foot 120, so it's a little different than most, but it's a great size tank.
Awesome. I have a 6 foot one over there, but and then I have a bunch of other ones. Shelby said, "Can you just have one tank?" And
No, it's impossible.
I'm at the shows and I stopped asking what kind of tank and started saying, "So how many tanks do you have?" And they
Right.
always get thrown off by that, and it always makes them laugh. And only
Yeah.
once has the answer been one, and I was like, "Ooh, you must be new." And
Yeah.
the person was brand new, so I was like, I'm continuing to validate my obscene obsession with this hobby by making sure everybody else has the same issues.
It's a problem. The MTS is real.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
All right. So, the Aquatic Expo. It's not the Charlotte Aquatic Expo. It is the Aquatic Expo in Charlotte. So me and Shelby have been doing a series where we've been talking about that. You won something at that, right?
Yeah, I got third place this year. It was very close. I mean, it was super close. The judges said it was very close between first, second, and third. There was a couple things they didn't like about my plant placement that counted me off a couple points. It was great. It was great feedback. Love doing it. This is my third year doing it. Last year I got fourth. The year before I got fourth. So yeah, it's wonderful. I think it's a fun experience. I love the time crunch, as we'll talk about here in a minute with the other scape I did over here. I love doing things fast. And it just kind of all comes together. So yeah, it was super fun. And thank you guys again for sponsoring that. It was amazing stuff. So
Yeah, I mean, you absolutely killed it. I think your tank was actually Shelby or Sadie's favorite. So my
yeah,
boss, she loved your use of the glitter rock. I know the first time we brought glitter rock to competition, people were like, "What's this?" Um, but
yeah, that was so. Originally, I was not planning to use glitter rock. I don't think anybody wanted to use the glitter rock. It's in the scape behind me. This is the tank that I did, but everybody was going to the Dragonstone and the same thing. And what was the other? You guys had like white jade or something.
Alpine jade, yep,
Alpine jade, yeah,
that's a rock that's hand collected in New Zealand.
yeah. It's a cool rock. I think
It's a
that's what I
beautiful
used
rock,
in
yeah.
the scape at Fishy, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, everybody was gravitating towards that, and everybody avoided the glitter rock. And I said, "Look, I'm going to take a chance and make this look awesome." So I picked it up and I got it wet, and it went real dark. It changed a lot, and it doesn't look as glittery once you have the tank filled. So that was a huge plus too. But it had a lot of great shapes to it, a lot of great looks and different unique characteristics that the other rocks were just, it's simple. That's what those rocks are supposed to be. So I tried it, and it turned out fantastic. I still have the tank set up behind me.
That's awesome.
It's great. So
Yeah, I mean, I think people forget, even aquascapers forget how different rocks look when they're dry versus when they're wet.
yes,
And to me, when they get wet, it reminds me more. You know how like there can be light beams coming down from the surface, how it looks like they're being scattered, and
yep.
to me, it looks like the rock is just catching beams of light, and it's definitely not like you're putting a disco ball in your tank.
Yeah, and that's what I'm actually going to be changing the light next couple of weeks, maybe a little bit, but one of those pendant lights that will actually create that ripple effect.
Like is it like a Kessel?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I want to do the Kessel light. Might do the cheaper knockoff version of it, but but yeah, I want to see what that looks like with that glitter rock, because I think it would be really cool how that kind of comes together. So
Yeah, I think I have a Kessel light over there, and that shimmer effect is really, it's
yeah,
gorgeous.
Yeah, I put a Chihiro's light on it. It looks amazing. It's super bright, but it might be too bright because it's a very powerful light, and I'm not running CO2 on it, so might be changing it out to get that ripple effect and have it kind of bounce off and make the disco ball effect. We'll see. I'll send you some pictures and video once we get that going.
Yes, I would love that. All right. So I got to tell you a little bit of a story. Me and Mark were at Fishy Business last week. Was it last week?
Yeah, I think it was last week.
Oh my God, time goes by so fast. All right, so I think it was Tuesday last week, and Mark got there and we were laying out our supplies and talking, and he was like messing around with wood, and I had to go get on a Zoom meeting for work. I told him, I was like, "You got 20 minutes. It better be done by the time I get out." Joking, like totally joking. And I come out, and he is done. Like, done with his aquascape. And I was like, it was a joke. Like, I wanted to watch you aquascape. And he's just sitting there like, he's like, nope. He's like, you gave me a parameter, and I finished it. Tell me about that. Like, that was, you killed it. It was absolutely gorgeous. You had a few tweaks that you still were working on whenever I came out of the meeting, but like, how in the heck do you aquascape so fast?
It's really starting with something as a base and trying to work around it. And when you went there, I was like playing around with the wood and had nothing else in the tank, just trying to figure out. And it's the picture that's up on the screen now, and it's a shallow 10-gallon UNS tank. Which I have one, so I have that same tank here. So it made that a little bit easier. Yeah, very familiar with that one. And I have it set up as a shrimp tank. Very cool. Love stuff coming out of it. I had a lot of air plants growing out of the top. So I kind of used, like, what wood could I put in there and then build around the wood. And it just came together perfectly. The rocks you guys sent in were very uniform, so it wasn't having to find that specific rock. It was a great product to work with. So that helped it go together well too. But the couple pieces of wood that were there, the one that you see laying down, that was the one I started with facing upwards. And as soon as I laid it down, I was like, all right, here it goes. And it just kind of fell together after that. Just kind of trying to make where the cuts and the stuff, which you're going to get in all natural wood, they cut some of it off. You got to hide that and just kind of build around it. And it just always comes naturally together. There it is. Yeah.
There's a better, slightly bigger photo so people can see it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Let me get zoomed in on it. Yeah, so I think this is something me and Shelby have talked about in the past too, is like when you're doing an aquascaping competition, you're kind of, you have to aquascape the tank you have, right? And especially for the Aquatic Expo, I think next week is our last week on that series. Y'all had a unique footprint for the tank, right?
Yeah, it was 24 wide, 18 inches deep front to back, and 18 tall, or 12 tall, something like that. It was a 34-gallon, very different size tank. The year prior, we had a 20-gallon, like a standard 20-gallon, which is a little bit of a challenge, smaller footprint, only 12 inches deep. When it gave you that 18 inches front to back to work with, it definitely opened up a lot of possibilities. So this tank, the UNS, is about the same. It's just only 7 inches tall. So lots to work with there.
Only
where there's a lot
tall.
sticking out the top.
Is it easier to work with a tank size that you're familiar with, or does it not make a difference?
It sometimes, yes. I mean, I'm sure it's easier, but it's really depth of the tank that makes it easier.
Okay.
I've tried 12-inch tanks a couple times, and you just don't get that shadow effect, the layer effect, the depth that you want. So when you're looking at a tank, it's all like right there in front of you. So 18 to 24 inches deep, that's ideal. If I ever replace my 120, I'm going to go still 5 foot wide because that's where it fits perfectly. But I want to go with a 24-inch deep tank to be able to create those shadows and that depth effect.
It occurs to me that I didn't tell people why we were doing this. So this was Aquascape that we did in Fishy Business. We asked you to come and help us with it. And that's because Fishy Business just started carrying our products.
Yep.
So we are super, super excited about that partnership. Fishy Business is about an hour for me. So I'm hoping that we can do a lot more of these type of projects. Hopefully we'll see you again on here, Mark. Is that something that was fun for you, or did it just feel like work?
I love it. Look, I first of all, Fishy Business is in Columbia, South Carolina. I'm there every week.
Are you really?
Yeah, every week I go there, and it's more just to get away from work. I know everybody there, so it's kind of like seeing friends. One of the guys that works there actually lives in my neighborhood, so
cool.
I go there a lot. But I would love to do this. This is one of I can't keep a tank set up for more than 6 months. I look at it and I'm like, all right, I can play with this. So next week, I actually have off of work all next week, and I'm re-scaping my 120. So I've been texting you about possible new product.
I was like acting surprised, and you're like, I texted you. I was like, yeah, you did.
Yeah, I have. Just every time I do it, it gets better and better. I do this a lot for work. When I set up trade shows, and every time I set up a trade show or a booth or our showroom, I always like to make it look a little bit different, a little bit better, add something, know what I did last time that I don't like now, and improve on that. So I have a problem not tinkering. So
yeah. I think actually this is like prime location also at Fishy Business, right?
Yeah, it's right front center.
Yeah. So have you been there since you did this Aquascape?
4 or 5 times, yeah.
Is it weird?
I was there yesterday.
Is it cool walking in and being like, "That's my work"?
Yeah. So I took my son. My son was there with me when I set it up. We went yesterday again because school was canceled because of weather or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Dad, your scape's still there." I'm like, "Yeah." And he calls it scapes. He's got all the lingo. He loves helping.
He was very excited to help. That's for sure.
Yeah. Fishy actually posted this on their Facebook page the other day about this tank and the other one on the other side that Chuck set up. And there was a couple of comments that I love number one. Number one was great. This is awesome. So I kind of want to buy the whole thing.
And do a refresh to the other tank on the other side.
They give me the word, I'll do it.
All right, so let's talk about the materials you use. So I don't remember. Did we tell you what you were going to use, or did you pick it out?
Both.
All right, tell us more about that. Why is it both?
Yeah, because I asked for a couple things, and you brought in some extra stuff. So that's kind of where it went. The rock I definitely picked out. The wood I just said, hey, bring in, because originally it was supposed to be a different size tank also. So I asked you to bring in like 5 or 6 pieces of wood, on the larger size, because I wanted to make like an island scape, but the tank was going to be a 50 or 55, something different, and
quite a bit bigger.
Yeah, they didn't want to tear the whole thing down because it was an active tank and there's fish and all that stuff. So it was a last minute pivot after, and you sent in some extra, or brought some extra stuff with you that made it really come together very well. So like the scatter rock and the alpine jade rock I asked for, and the wood you picked out, and they were awesome. The amount of just uniqueness on the pieces you brought were phenomenal. I mean, there's a couple pieces like that one in the picture I still want to use, but
just go snatch it, right?
Yeah.
So
I asked Kat if I could buy the whole thing and take it home.
I'm actually going to buy this. I know that this was supposed to be a sell display, but
right. Sorry.
I like it so much I'm the one buying it. I'm sure Kat wouldn't care. You said scatter rock. What does that mean?
So when you're doing aquascapes, you try to make it look as natural as possible. And anywhere you see rock, there's going to be smaller pieces of rock near that rock.
In real
So like,
life, right?
yeah, in real life, real scenarios, like Mother Nature, um, the rock with water, with elements, everything, it will chip away. There will be pieces that fall off. There will be other smaller pieces. So, like in the picture, you see like the smaller rocks around it. Um, just trying to create that scatter rock to where it's not just rock substrate. And
I wonder if I can
just
zoom this in at all so people can kind of see, like down here on
there
the
we go.
bottom.
Yeah. And to do that, it's not really it. The trick to making it look correct is kind of like drop it over the corner of where the bigger rock is and just let it fall into place. And you can see there's a couple places where I could have probably done a little bit more, like right front and center in the middle. There's like none underneath that rock, but that's because it kind of bounced off and it fell forward. So not trying to make it look like you placed it there, and that's where all of these rocks are. Like they were wedged in, or they fell here, or the the wood grew around it of some sort, and that creates more rock. So just kind of following the wood lines, kind of following uh, the lines that you would think like the water flow would go, and putting that scatter rock in that area.
Yeah, so a lot of this, I assume, also comes down to your knowledge of what things look like out in nature. So do you
Yeah,
spend a lot of time out in nature to be able to recreate this stuff, or?
I used to. I don't as much. I have 4 kids, and they're all active, and it's crazy amount. I work, 40, 50 hours a week. So no, not as much as I'd like to, but I used to fish a lot. I used to hike a lot, go canoeing, kayaking, kayak fishing. So I used to spend a lot of time out, but not as much as I'd like to.
So, just out of curiosity, I don't know what the answer is to this. Like someone who's doing an aquascaping competition, since our focus has kind of recently been on the
Sure.
competitions, uh, do you think going and visiting some nature stuff could help with
Oh, 100%.
inspiration, or it doesn't really matter?
So I get my inspiration since I have so much going on. I literally look online.
Okay.
I do like rivers, creeks, underwater scenes, underwater river. Just looking up things on Google, and also looking at other aquascapes and going through the big international. I can't remember the initials of it, but
IALPC?
something like, yeah. I I'm gonna jump into that this year
Oh, that's
in
exciting.
Medellin. Yeah, it's very cool, and I love how that's an international. It's an online thing. You get ranked. It's really cool. But I love looking through those, and some of those scapes are just absolutely amazing. Some of them I'll never be able to afford all the hardscape and what they do. I also don't have the
Wait, wait,
patience.
wait. Affordability. This is something I've not ever processed. Could you pause there and tell me a little bit more what you mean by that? Is it because it's a giant tank, or?
It's the giant tank and the amount of hardscape they're putting into these things. There are
Okay.
some tanks that they're building full on um, dioramas of like trying to recreate Avatar or something, and you have a rock and the little twigs and the pieces of wood and everything is perfect, and they've been collecting this stuff for a long time, but the the bigger, more, you know you're using more rock than you would water in a big tank. It gets pricey. um and I also like to, I like bigger fish, as my shirt says. So, um but like in my 120, I have to have a lot of space because geophagus. You also have to be, aware of what you're aquascaping for what you're putting in there. So the geophagus need a lot of sand. They need a lot of area to be able to dig through the sand. So building a scape and putting the right livestock in with it is a huge factor as well. So
Now, people who are doing those kinds of um, aquascaping competitions, is that
mhm.
like, do they keep a tank that's just for their hobby and then the competition tank, or is it emerged?
I would say it's got to be, but they have to have it merged. I mean, I can't have a competition tank here and one next to it that just doesn't look the same. That's me personally, and I don't think anybody else does. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people that have like grow out tanks and other stuff. You know, I don't have room or the blessing by my spouse to have a grow out tank. I do have a little quarantine tank underneath the 120 that nobody knows exists.
Now we do, but we won't tell anybody.
Yeah,
We'll keep it secret.
It's all good. It's only live, no big deal.
What happens on the Pisces live stream stays on the Pisces live stream.
There we go.
So what was this sand that you used here? Do you remember which one that was? Was that Midnight?
No. Which one?
Was it Midnight Pearl? Or Prairie, maybe?
Prairie. Yeah.
What made you
I
choose
have
that one?
I used that in my tank for the competition. I used it in my tank last year. I love it because first of all, y'all have the cleanest substrate I've ever used. We
pride ourselves on that.
Yeah.
Kat is saying it's the Delta. It's Delta.
Delta, okay. It's a smaller, it's a little bit finer. It's great. But the cleanliness of your substrate is fantastic. I mean, I've used other substrates, but since the first year that you guys did it, it was a hardscape only. So I didn't really know how great it was. But last year when I filled up the tank, there was like no mess in the tank. And I was like, oh, this is easy. This year I did it again. And you know, I think it's leaps and bounds above what other companies do. Wash your substrate. You know how hard it is to wash sand? It is not fun. And if you're not doing it, then your tank's going to look like a mess. So I do definitely appreciate that. But this substrate, when the water gets in it, you get some darker pieces. You get a little bit of red, not as much as you would think from looking at it. But a lot of the lighter colors become lighter also. So it gives you, one, it hides a lot of debris and stuff that you don't want later on.
Yeah.
But at the initial start, it just looks very uniform and natural. Like you're not nowhere you find just white sand.
Aquanatural.
Yeah, aquanatural. There you go.
Yeah, we that's definitely something. We make sure that our suppliers are really making sure that the stuff is clean. A lot of the suppliers we use are the same suppliers that like pool companies use for doing the like work around a pool,
Sure.
or cabinet companies for countertops and stuff. So you know it has to be very pristine, very clean for those types of use cases, because so a contractor isn't going to sit there cleaning sand for 2 hours before they can lay it. So
and the larger rocks you still got to clean, and that's not y'all's fault. That's just shipping. They bump against each other and all that. And that was one thing. The glitter rock, going back to that stuff is definitely chips easily. It was very dirty, but it's just because that's just how the rock is. It's a little bit more fragile than
it's a softer rock.
Yeah. So cleaning that and making sure that was clean was the biggest win for the tank behind me here. You know, getting some of those little glitter fragments and getting that out of the water afterwards. But
I bet it almost looks like fish scales. Like someone just got ate, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So we're coming up on our 30-minute mark, and I try and like cut us off there. Do you have any last minute comments that you? Oh, I do want to make a comment about the scatter rock. What was the scatter rock that you used?
I have the bag of it somewhere.
It's called Gunsmoke.
Gunsmoke. There you go. Thank you.
All right, tell me about Gunsmoke.
It looks a lot like the Alpine Jade, and it also looks a lot like the Cerulean Stone. So I've used that with Cerulean Stone, and when it gets wet, it darkens up a little bit. So it does match Cerulean Stone, and it's a great consistency. There's not a lot of big chunks with it, and if you take a bigger rock, and you can kind of see an escape, I took a couple bigger ones and I broke them up to create that dimension. But that scatter rock it's great. I've actually used the leftover from this for a plant, and just have a clear vase with that and the plant growing up out of it. And it looks great. It's fantastic. Very, like I said, uniform shapes, and the colors kind of vary a little bit because you get a little bit of the whites going through there, the grays, like a traditional Ceres stone does.
Sadie's saying it's from New Zealand, like the Alpine Jade rock. So both the rocks and the scatter rock that you used are both sourced from New Zealand.
Gotcha.
So,
That's why they work so well together. Yeah.
Cat, it's my favorite too. The Gunsmoke I think is absolutely gorgeous. It's interesting because this one doesn't sell well online, but when people see it, like we sell out of it.
It'd be the first one I buy every time.
Yeah, it's so pretty. It's a schist that has a little bit of mica in it too, so it's got a slight shine to it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like, you know, when you pick up, like, I don't know what's it called. I'm blanking on it. In a driveway, you pick up a gray rock and it's got
Asphalt.
like some sparkle to it. Yeah, not asphalt. Rocks.
Just rocks.
Just rocks, I guess. And it's got a little bit of sparkle to it from quartz being naturally in it.
There you go.
Like, I think that this kind of has that kind of look, but it also, like, it's mainly gray, but it pulls some browns in, it pulls some whites in, and I feel like it makes it really easy to make any kind of sand and rock combination look super natural.
Yeah, that was when you asked me, like, what did I order? That was the first thing I clicked on. That was the first thing I went to find, was that the Gunsmoke. And as soon as I saw it, I don't remember the name of it, but I knew what it was. And that was the first thing I put on the list that I wanted, because it just really works with everything. So yeah.
Well, thank you so much for jumping on so last minute with us. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's not a problem. I'm happy to be here. Any other time you want, just let me know. I'll be happy to do it again.
I'm sure. I also want to give a huge shout out to Fishy Business. Thank you, Kat, for not only being awesome, but also carrying our Pisces USA products, the Aqua Natural line. I truly hope this becomes a long-term partnership because y'all are doing the right things. If you're in the area, make sure you go check them out. Hopefully I'll get to show up and crash a few more of your projects in the future. Yeah, I think we all had a ton of fun.
Yeah, it was a great day.
Do you think you can ever beat that 20-minute record you set last week?
I don't. I'm not gonna even lie to you. No, I don't. It was so, I don't know. It just came together so easily, and
sometimes that happens, right? Like sometimes I see aquascapers in the competitions, and they're like bloop, 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 done.
Yeah.
And then other times it's just like things just aren't fitting the way you want them to fit.
Yeah, for sure. I would love to say yes, and I would love to go do 20-minute aquascapes. But honestly, I like doing it. So the more time it takes, like when I'm redoing my tank here, like it's a 7 or 8 hour project, and buckets everywhere, live fish sitting in buckets, like it's great.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been
no
a
problem.
blast.
Thanks for having me.
Can't wait for our next project together, and I hope everyone watching got inspired to go scape something. Hopefully, with product you got from Fishy Business.
There you go.
Unsolicited plug. As always, make sure you like, subscribe, and follow Pisces USA for more aquascaping content. And if you need the best natural substrates, rocks, and driftwoods, head to our website and find a retailer near you. Until next time, swim with Pisces.
Thanks.